Good morning. Traditionally, Dharma School starts on the second Sunday of September, and today it's starting online. Our Dharma School teachers and our minister's assistants are having a Zoom and video Dharma School. Also, today is Shotsuki, and so I will be reading the names of those who passed away in the month of September. Please burn incense at your home altar or obuchidan, or keep those who passed away in your mind. Sumi Otani Cheeks, Sumie Nakashima, Reverend Jim Yanagihara, Tom Yanagihara, Cynthia Kashiwagi, Shozo Yamashita, Margaret Ikeda, Leo Noriyoshi Hagio, Yoshiko Rothenberg, Masamitsu Mayakawa, So Yamada, Peter Rex Adkins, Mitsue Hanano, Irene Yamamoto, Mary Iguchi, Shunsuke Hanaoka, Catherine Taylor, Takeshi Mike Sonoda, Takeno Hayashi, Yaeko Hamabata, Tokihiro Yano, Yoshie Yonekura, Vivian Owashi, Fujiko Tsujimura, Takae Furuya, Takashi Hamabata, Kiichiro Osaki, George Kudo, Suzuko Devi, Shin Araumi, Yasuyuki Sugiyama, Ko Nakagawa, Michiko Obayashi, Tamio Mayumi, Noburo Tomiyama, Ruth Honda, Yuji Funaki, Midori Nishiue, Uta Sugiyama, Ikuji Oto, Seikichi Moriyama, Isa Kasubuchi, Usaburo Tsuji, Kiyono Fujimoto, Reverend Tetsuro Kashima, Masao Nimura, Fumi Ishizuka, Haru Takashima, Kisako Kishi. Again, we honor all those who passed away in this month of September, as they are the ones who made our lives possible. Now, next week, we will observe Ohigan. Reverend Kurt Rye was unable to supply us with a video, and so we're fortunate in that our minister's assistant, Noriko Kawai, will be giving our Ohigan Dharma talk, both in English and in Japanese. Now, 2 days ago, on Friday, we experienced the 19th anniversary of the September 11th attack on the Twin Towers. It was a dramatic attack on us, and it changed our lives. It really changed the way we thought about life, because we had this thought of a terrorist attack at all times. And yet it brought our country together. Our allies really supported us. And over the 19 years, we've relatively contained things as we created a Federal Department of Homeland Security. And so the way we traveled was altered. It was inconvenient but necessary. Almost 3,000 people died that day. Now today, in 3 days, over 3,000 people will die from the coronavirus. About 193,000 Americans have died in the last 7 months. Compared to 9/11, we have not had a national response. Our country now is more divided. Our allies in most of the countries in the world will not allow Americans into the country to prevent us from spreading the COVID virus. Like 9/11, we know what the threat is, but we have been unable to contain it. We know how to contain the virus. You know, after 9/11, it was a difficult time, but we knew how to contain the attack. Air travel was made more difficult but we had the TSA and other means. Today, medical and health professionals know how to contain the virus, and yet, for some reason, people are not following their advice. It's like saying we want to fly, but we won't go through the TSA checking, and we don't want to be x-rayed or have our luggage inspected. So we're endangering the lives of others. What is the problem if we know the solution? Many other countries are solving this and containing their COVID-19 epidemic. And they're opening up their economies and schools, and they're doing it safely. Why aren't we Americans doing what works? The Buddha actually told us about this situation and our solution. And the source of our problem is ignorance. Ignorance creates suffering. Last week we talked about duality and the middle path, and we want to expand on that. How can the Buddhist teachings help us in this situation? We talked about the balance of opposites. How do we deal with our current situation? I'd like to start with this poem so that we might fully understand this situation. In the world of duality, of in, out, right, wrong, up, down, myself, others, good and bad, life and death, I am made aware of a universe of wisdom and compassion. Now, duality is solved by the inclusion of both sides, the middle path. Another way of saying this is we shift from an either-or position to a both-and. Now, we live in a world of duality, so that we only see things relative to each other. As human nature, I have an ego, and therefore I see things in relationship to myself. To survive, I favor things that benefit me, and I kind of oppose things that oppose me. So this is natural. And so as infants, children, teenagers, young adults, we've taken the first 20 years of our life to build our ego, to protect ourselves. And to explain this further, I'll demonstrate by giving you an example of my life. I did pretty well in grade school. I got good grades. I liked school. I thought it was pretty interesting. And so I built my ego around my grades, thinking I was smart. In junior high school, this continued. I got pretty good marks. But I also started playing sports. I started music, playing the saxophone, and got into student government. But I wasn't that great in sports. My saxophone playing was okay, and I wasn't that organized. So I really put an emphasis in my grades, and that was my ego. Now, as I got into high school, my grades weren't as great as they were in junior high. But still, I enjoyed these other activities of sports and music and student government. But I was having fun with all these activities. Now, I started San Jose State, and I found out that I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. In my second year, I really started to enjoy college life. I was able to join the men's group. I was active at the temple, YB, and many other activities. We had a band at the temple. I was doing a lot of things. I had the family car on weekends, and so I was really enjoying college life. However, my grade point was dropping, and my sister warned me that if I wanted to get into dental school, I better get my grade point up, and that might mean that I should cut down on my activities and maybe move out of town. And so I was able to transfer to Cal Berkeley, and that was something I was really proud of. This is something I wanted to do. But there at Berkeley, I began to see that I wasn't that smart. I compared myself to others. And so comparing myself to the other students was kind of hard. So I started comparing myself to others who were not at Berkeley. I remember the first time I came back from school, I took the Greyhound bus. And walking in downtown San Jose, walking to the city bus stop, I was thinking of the people around me, whether they realized that I was a Berkeley Cal student. And I thought, oh, maybe I should have worn my Cal sweatshirt. But I didn't realize that people really weren't interested and really didn't care about me. And yet I was so proud, that I thought I achieved this station all by myself. I wasn't thinking about my mother, who had taken a full-time job at a children's clothing store. She was working part-time at a Japanese store, Nichibei Bussan. But she took on this full-time job, I think, to help me pay for my education. I didn't think about my father, who was always working real hard. I didn't think about my sister, who helped me fill out all those forms, applications, so that I was able to transfer to Berkeley. I didn't think about my older friends and teachers who had helped me. All these people had helped me, and yet I was so proud that I had done this on my own. And I thought I was so smart, but I didn't realize how ignorant I was. When I got to dental school, I really found out that I wasn't smart and that I was sort of dumb. Everybody was smart there, and I really needed help from classmates, the older students, and teachers. And then when I graduated dental school, I went into the Air Force, came back, and started my own practice. And then I had to get a lease, buy equipment, hire staff. I even bought a house, signed a mortgage. The house was really expensive, $33,000 for a house. This was in 1972, a long time ago. But I had to do all these things with insurance and areas that I really knew nothing about. So in the real world, I was beginning to realize that I didn't know very much at all. And my ignorance was spilling out all over. I don't know if you can relate to this story. I don't know if you have had a similar experience. But for some reason, I was able to see how dumb I was. I think it was because I had gone to Dharma school, was in the YBA, and I heard the minister saying how my attachment to ego caused my suffering. It was because I was unable to admit my ignorance that I was not able to grow beyond my teenage mentality. If I had kept this strong ego-centered thought, I wouldn't be able to grow. I would still be protecting my teenage mentality. Duality doesn't exist just between me and you. Duality also exists within me. If I have this either-or mentality, I'm either smart or dumb. But if we keep this both-and mentality, I might realize that the negative dumb side might also be aware of a not-so-dumb side, and that my Bonbu ignorant side might also see a Buddha nature compassionate side of me. And this is Nishu Jinshin, two aspects of deep mind, to really show me that the compassion of Amida, or the efforts of all others, are also a part of me. So we can grow from ignorance to maturity just by realizing that I'm suffering because of my mentality. If I were to blame other people, I couldn't get any better. I would have to admit my ignorance to realize that there was an area to grow. If I were sick and admitted it, I could see a doctor, get medicine, and get better. If I didn't admit it, I would just stay with my illness. So if we're always right, how can we grow? You know, there are people in public office that think they're right at all times and can't admit they're wrong, even with a display of the evidence against that. I've talked about the black belt fallacy. And this is if a person would get a black belt, you might think that he really knows that craft. But what I've been saying is that the black belt is just the entry. It says that we have just reached the level where now we know the fundamentals and we could really learn that craft, that sport, whatever it is. So if it's a degree, a black belt, a promotion, a position, or even a black robe, it just means that we've reached the level of knowing the fundamentals and knowing now that we can really learn and learn something in depth. So the both-and mentality is the middle path. It means that by admitting the truth that I don't know, I have room to learn. The either-or mentality means that I try to hide my ignorance. and there's no room for any knowledge at all or any growth. So the attitude and method we display really tells us whether we are teenagers or mature adults. Mature adults follow the facts, have experience, and they care for others. And so we hope to encourage others in this duality, to encourage others to really think of the safety of all of us. So let me repeat this poem. In a world of duality, of in, out, right, wrong, up, down, myself, others, good and bad, life and death, I'm made aware of a universe of wisdom and compassion. The spiritual world of wisdom and compassion accepts us just as we are. And when we realize this, we can respond with gratitude and express the Nembutsu. So we would like to discuss this further on our Wednesday night Buddhism 123. Please join us. And so for now, please join me in expressing our deepest appreciation for the Nembutsu, which accepts us just as we are so that we could admit our ignorance and grow. Gassho, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida, Namo. Following this video, our Minister's Assistant Yukari Williams will give a Dharma talk in Japanese. She is originally from Yokohama, Japan. She said that her parents were very devout Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. She is married with one daughter, Erica. They moved here to San Diego in 1989. She worked for Sony Electronics in Rancho Bernardo for 15 years. She has been helping in many activities as a minister's assistant for many years. If you are like me and don't fully understand Japanese, you might still listen and will benefit from her very heartfelt and moving message. Thank you, Yukari, for this wonderful Dharma talk.
皆さん、こんにちは。ゆかりです。今日は、私が忘れていたとっても大事なことについてお話しします。それではよろしくお願いします。まずはじめに合唱お願いします。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。皆さんご存知と思いますけど、去年の11月に私、がんの手術をしました。その時は、皆さんからいろいろなお見舞いのカードや、それからお花や食べ物や植物をいただきまして、誠にありがとうございました。とっても嬉しかったです。その手術をした後、放射線や薬物治療、それからあと2度ほどの手術もまたしまして、入院も繰り返して、結構辛い日が続きました。で、覚えている限り一番辛かったことは、普通のことができなかったんですね。なんか犬を散歩に出すとか、犬を散歩に連れて行くとか、それからお台所に溜まってしまったお皿を洗うとか、それからシャワーに入るのがとっても億劫だったり、そういう普通は何でもないことなんですが、そういうことがなんかとてもできなくなりました。で、それがとても辛かったです。そして辛くなっちゃって毎日泣いてました。そんな時、私は、OCBC の、むつみ先生と、それから、 三下語仏教会ののりこ先生とズームでお話しする機会がありました。そこでいろいろお話ししていて、でむつみ先生におっしゃったこと、むつみ先生に教えていただいたこと、それで私が忘れていたことを思い出しました。阿弥陀様は、むつみ先生がおっしゃるには、阿弥陀様はいつも私たちと一緒にいてくださる。阿弥陀様はお母さんのようにいつも私たちのことを心配していてくださる。阿弥陀様は私たちをいつも見つめていてくださる。なので私たちは全く心配する必要がないし、苦しまなくてもいいんです。私はそのことを忘れていて、毎日泣いたり苦しんだりしました。それで今度からは先生方のいろんなお話を聞いたり、またお念仏をして、阿弥陀様が、私といつも一緒にいらっしゃることを忘れないようにしたいと思います。私もう一つ手術を10月にもう一つ手術をしなければならなくなってしまったんですけれども、そのことについてまた悲しんでいました。でも阿弥陀様のことを思い出して、阿弥陀様が私と一緒にいてくださるって思ってやっていく。頑張るっていうのは、頑張るっていうことはあんまり好きじゃないんですけど、そう思いながら手術をしてもらうことにします。今日はお話を聞いていただいてありがとうございました。それでは阿弥陀様のことを忘れないように合唱をお願いいたします。ナマアミダ仏、ナマアミダ仏、ナマンダ、ナマンダ。